Se o silêncio dissesse tudo, sentimento bom que me leva pro outro mundo. A vontade de te ver já é maior que tudo. Não existem distâncias no meu novo mundo, tipo coisas da sétima.
Episode 75, Clint Cronin Show. We are here at CSW in Fullerton, California.
Or the Germans say CSV.
CSV. So if you're in Germany, you'll know how to find the website a little bit better. I'm with Erik Paulson. He's a 5th degree black belt in Jiu Jitsu under Rigan Machado, as well as a black belt in multiple other disciplines and a master of many martial arts. Lifelong student, lifelong teacher, founder of CSW here, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful day, bro.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Oh, absolutely.
What's the weather compared to where you're from?
Say within 5 degrees, give
really?
or take, not quite as
cooler?
warm. It's a little cooler up there, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So where you were on your recent seminar in the Bay Area over at Peninsula Self Defense, I'm within 15 minutes of that school.
Oh, nice.
So it's roughly there.
It's beautiful. I wish I had more time to look around. It seemed really nice. There's a lot of mixture of trees. I like to see some of the big redwoods I've never seen. Oh,
really? Yeah, we definitely have that where they haven't already kind of cut them down to put in Apple and whatever,
That's
Google.
Well, I mean, obviously we need stuff like technology, but not at the expense of these, 500-year-old trees.
I think the biggest area of Silicon Valley that was sort of mowed down was like orchards and stuff. So that it was mostly farmland and orchard, and then the big boom came when all these giant tech companies and semiconductor and stuff like that. So once they made way for all the tech companies, I think all the farmland got kind of pushed out and down further south.
There was a water contamination last time I was driving through last year.
Not surprised.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but they were saying it was a mercury or something in the water.
Not surprised. Yeah. We still have you're still finding fish coming off of the Fukushima thing, right?
Oh, yeah. I actually was over there a couple years ago. I was with Josh when he fought Roy Nelson. And I got back from there, and I wasn't feeling good. And I got checked, and I had some radiation from maybe some of the food or something that I ate.
I've been trying to
It's still going on over there. I mean, it's still... My friend just got back, Thomas Lynch, and he said the same thing. He said, it's not gone. It hasn't disappeared yet. There's still a lot of heavy metals.
I don't think they ever actually capped it, the spill, right? So
Wow.
I'm still trying to figure out, is it better to eat farm fish now than the fresh stuff if the fresh is just going to be polluted with the nuclear isotope stuff?
Yeah, that's a big question. But some of the farm fish, I talked to a guy last night, talk about tilapia. Oh, he was saying what they eat. He said, listen, some of these, he said, barramundi is the best fish you could eat.
So tilapia it's a bottom feeder.
Yeah, and he said what they're feeding
fish.
off of is pig bacteria from pig scraps.
Oh my God.
That's what they're feeding them. So he said, so when you're tasting tilapia and it tastes earthy, he goes, that's from the pig scraps.
Oh, beautiful. I was, you get a little pork in the diet.
Yeah, so when you think that you're only eating fish, you're eating pork.
So there you go. It's not halal. Can't do that.
But barramundi is a fish from Australia. It's from Darwin. They're pretty prominent up in Darwin. But as far as one of the healthiest and the safest fish to eat, so you're finding a lot of fish markets now are carrying barramundi.
Oh, even in the U.S. stateside?
Yeah. There's a fish market right down the road, and they have barramundi. And I love to eat the trout. I mean, I love the trout. It's not as filling, but it's actually pretty delicious. But even the farm, so you got wild trout, and then you got the farm trout, and it's a question on what's in their pellets. What are they feeding them?
Man, you're one of the guys I should definitely go for food tips on. I mean, you're so well traveled. You've been doing the seminar thing basically around the world since day one, right?
I've traveled all throughout the world, but not so much to the Eastern Bloc. I have been to Poland. I've been to the border of Russia, but I've never actually been in Russia. I've been in Finland and Sweden, and never been, I've been in the airport in Norway, but never really got off the airplane. I'd like to go there. Actually, one of the back of one of my shirts was from a Viking museum, And it's from the 1400s, and it's their rules for the Vikings.
Oh, very cool.
And I thought it was so cool. I put it on the back of a shirt. And it has a list of all of their traits that their tribes had to abide by.
So is that stuff that you took and like embodied into the gym as well, into your sort of martial arts?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because it's kind of, you look at just the way society is today and the way, I mean, we're still tribal, kind of, right? I mean, kind of, but I think that, you know, it's kind of a moral code of ethics and how you help other people and how you should act in public and trading. And
I'd definitely say we're tribal. I think the commercialism just kind of exploits that nature in people with pro sports. Like, you have red shirts, you got blue shirts. Cool, well, screw that guy. We'll, get him out there and then, put him on a field and everybody just pays to watch him and pays for all the merchandise and stuff. And you're wearing a blue shirt, so you're different than me. Or Oakland versus San Francisco, it's the same thing.
That's right.
It's a bridge. It's right there. It's the same exact thing. They're the same exact people.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean, if everyone was the same, we need the division. That's important because that's what makes us who we are. But it's like I think the one world vision is. I think it's dangerous because you're taking away people's ability to be an expressive human. I mean, that's what makes us great. Is everyone's different, has different thoughts and views and opinions, and never argue politics and religion because you'll never win.
Yeah, that's like rule number one for most bars with good etiquette, but like the gym, jiu-jitsu in general, it's what's great about martial arts. Everybody leaves that crap at home and everybody can just be there and sort of turn off the external nonsense.
Well, a couple guys will they'll say something about the news or something, but then there's always one or two people who disagree or whatever, and it's like, well, why are we even going to have any disagreements? I mean, we should be agreeing about training, which is the most valuable and important aspect right now. All that other stuff, I mean, people, what's weird is with this new presidency, how is everybody suddenly so involved in politics with all their opinions? They weren't with the last term.
No,
they weren't like that. Nobody was really into it. Nobody was talking and posting all about political stuff. And now for some reason, everyone is split, and
it's the world's favorite reality show now.
Yeah,
I mean, you basically have these personalities on, that they're tweeting and they're on whatever social media thing, and
it's like his own. He said it's like his own newspaper. He goes, I don't have to. They can't spin anything I say, but there's also protecting what you say too. Like you say things maybe you shouldn't say.
Yeah,
there's no filter.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potentially good for that if used correctly, but then bad too, because if you don't really have that filter process in your own brain.
Well, like Asperger's, you just say whatever you feel like, which it's honest, truthful. But another thing too is you don't have to. You could actually hear what the president's opinion is, about stuff. And I think he trolls a lot, to be honest with you. I think he says stuff to get a reaction and get people to react, to say stuff or to expose something. But again, without getting involved into talking about that, I think one of the biggest things that's tough is having these 24-hour news stations that are reporting 24 hours. So what do they have to do? They have to create a narrative and stick to it over and over and over. It's different watching news here and then going to Europe and watching news, BBC or CNN in Europe, because now you're listening to people talk about actual world events and things going on in parts of the world that we'd never even know about, because most of our news a lot of times is local.
Yeah, it's largely local, and I mean, trying to continue that narrative and have a story to tell, and it's just, I mean, it's again, I think the most popular form of reality TV now is the news, and how they spin different stories and how they put like the narrative and emphasis on certain things that are more conducive to, that's more like a story that you can follow through. I think a lot of things that are probably smaller sound bites that might be more like globally significant to the people or to culture or to just life in general will get glossed over because, that's not interesting. Nobody wants to hear about this, that, or the other thing. They want to hear about terrible things that you can get on one side over the other.
Negative. Like it's so different. Are you picking these guys up?
Not much. We can, on the tail end. You have a little light bulb out the door, right? Hey.
I have one of those lasers. It's green.
Ow.
I bought it online. It's cool, and it's got the grid. The thing's so powerful. I can actually sit in my house and push the button and put grids on my neighbors' houses that are 3/4 of a mile away, or half a mile away at least.
Damn.
Yeah, it's powerful. I bought it online. It's made in China.
Yeah. The good ones are.
But they showed it. They showed it, and they actually had it, and then they put it on. They kept it on, and they put it on a bottle, and it went through the bottle. That thing had to have been on there for an hour, because there's no way. Because I sat there with it on for like 10 minutes. I taped the button on, and I put it on something, and it didn't burn through it.
No, have you seen the ones that can like pop balloons and all that shit?
Yeah,
start fires with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so. That's like the Hydro Collider that they've got, the CERN in...
where's it? Over at Switzerland.
Yeah, it's in Switzerland. And they're talking about it possibly tearing holes or portals into other dimensions and allowing things to come through. And another thing that it possibly could do is... it could also create a black hole.
The black hole
suck the Earth into it.
See, the black hole would suck. The other dimensions thing, we get Cthulhu, or
well, that would be like that. What's that movie with not the Fog? Was it the Fog?
Yeah, the Mist.
The Mist.
The Mist.
Yeah, it'd be like that. It was government created. They were messing around and playing with interdimensional stuff, and then boom, it got ripped open, and these things started coming through. They've said that there's at least 11 dimensions that they've found.
They did that with, what was the other movie? It was the...
Philadelphia Experiment?
That's one. During the Super Bowl this year, they had the third Cloverfield. There was a third Cloverfield movie that they came out. They announced
I didn't see it.
On Super Bowl Sunday. They're like...
Is it out?
Yeah, they said, they showed the trailer for the new Cloverfield movie, and they said, oh, by the way, it's on Netflix tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, and they announced it as they announced the trailer.
Wow.
And it's just, it was out.
Did you see it?
Yeah, it's like that. It's it shows where the Cloverfield monsters came from, and it's They basically had a collider, like a CERN type thing, but they had it run in space.
Oh.
Because they were trying to fix the energy crisis or something, and that's where the monsters came from.
Well, if you look at it like this, I mean, they talk about the apocalypse or the end of the world and the second coming and all that stuff. And they say that, the gates of hell will open. Biblically, it says the gates of hell will open, and then they'll all be released, and it'll be hell on earth. And then the second coming, that's what's supposed to happen. So what would create that? What would create all these portals to open like that? Maybe possibly the CERN. Maybe that could be part of the rapture or the end of the apocalypse or something like that.
Well, like in most of these movies with, apocalyptic themes or scientists that are like, oh shit, we shouldn't have done it.
We shouldn't have done that. And then we're more powerful than we...
There's like the scientists like Jor-El trying to say, no, don't. But then there's the business guys like, no, we have to keep pushing. And then hell happens.
Yeah.
They're like, I told you this would happen. And
well, it's possible. I mean, you think about it, it's like, how would that happen? How would there be a rip in dimensions and the gates open up? I mean, I know it's biblical, and then we don't know how or when it's supposed to happen. But I mean, CERN could play a part of that. I don't know. I mean, they created the Hadron Collider to create the God particle, which is creation. That's like the divine spark.
The Higgs boson or whatever.
Yeah, it's a two particles colliding and creating this massive amount of energy. And what can you do with that? Create a black hole. I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
I'm down for the multiple Earths thing. the black hole and the gates of hell opening sounds like it would suck a lot more. So I'm been watching The Flash a lot, so I'm down with the multiple Earth stuff. I'm a big Flash fan.
I've had some strange dreams, and I've seen two suns, and I've seen like Nibiru or Planet X in the distance. I've seen we're on Earth, and then I see another planet, and I can see the sun, and it's just been in my dreams, but I don't know.
What was the planet in Star Wars where there's the two moons or two? Was it two suns or two?
There's
moons?
A lot of suns. There's a ton of suns out there.
There's that new telescope that they launched and they've been showing data from lately, when all it's meant to do is show how many planets are in the sky, and they measure them by, like, obviously this thing's way out in space, and they see all these distant stars, and what they do is they'll track one star and the shadows on it, over time, and they're able to actually measure the size and distance of the planets that orbit the neighboring suns and stuff. And they found one that's supposed to be in the Goldilocks zone of a star that's able to sustain, like, a water-based planet.
Yeah,
basically.
there's a lot. They're finding more and more planets that are life sustainable, like Earth.
Yeah, there's one more for sure that they found. It's far as shit, but
I guarantee you we're already out there. The space program's already going on, and it's far beyond what we know. NASA, and you ever watch Gaia?
No,
Gaia TV?
No.
David Wilcock, and they're talking about some of the stuff that's going on. It's actually a space program that started a while ago, and they're talking about all the places that they have been, and Mars. They have bases on Mars, and I don't know. They say the moon is. It was a big, huge satellite that was towed into our galaxy and used as it's hollow, and it's like a hollow base, and it's used as a viewing point for. So it's like a massive extraterrestrial.
It's like the Death Star kind of, but without the laser on it.
Yeah, I don't. They've found structures and things on that, and the weird thing also is how they lost the footage of us going to the moon.
They lost the footage. They lost the how they did it. Like, they said they don't know how to do the propulsion bit again.
But our technology is so much farther advanced than
they claim that what the official word is, like, they don't have the telemetry data anymore on the actual moon landing, like how to get us on the moon again. They don't know how. That's the official, right?
Well, but don't the Russians have it too? And then all the other people that went there?
I don't know. But I know the telemetry data is for sure at least gone.
Maybe we're not supposed to go back there. I saw something. I read something. They're talking about a possible warning that the astronauts were warned not to go back. So I don't know if you heard that or not.
So you were on Eddie Bravo's podcast recently, or pretty recently, right? Last year or so?
A couple years ago, yeah.
Was he getting into, like, the flat Earth stuff yet, or
not yet? That wasn't until later. He's
pretty into it.
Yeah, just a couple years ago, he started really. He said something to me. He asked about it, what I thought about it.
What's your take?
I don't believe it because I do Merkaba meditation, and I travel in my sleep a lot.
Yeah,
I always close my eyes and I see stars all around me. I mean, I'm going through galaxies, the speed of light. It's got to be from the meditation, and it's traveling, and nothing's flat. It's all right. They're all circular, round planets. Everything's round. And I've seen it. I've been above Earth, looking down on Earth, and I've been in my dreams and in the air, on the planet, looking up, and then up, looking down, and seeing that it's a massive ball.
So I've read some of the flat Earth theory stuff, like just listening to Eddie's podcast and just seeing different things on YouTube, because sometimes you do. And one of the things they said was Australia wasn't real.
Yeah, they're all actors.
They're all actors, but the flights everyone's in on all of.
Well, I must be on it then, because I go to Australia every year. It's a long flight. I hate that flight. It's like 16 hours.
Yeah, I've been to Asia, and that was a really long flight, and those people were really Asian. Like, why would Singapore be real if you're just? Why would you make Singapore but not Australia?
Yeah,
that seems like a lot of work.
Right there.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it gets you. hey, anything that makes you think, and I look at both sides of everything. I want to hear why they think that it's flat, why they believe it's flat, and scientific proof and things like that. And talking to astronauts that supposedly have been off the Earth and come back, or that are working in the space stations.
It would seem like
wouldn't that get leaked? I mean, wouldn't they say, "Hey, guess what?"
Oh, people are terrible at keeping secrets.
Yeah,
if the moon landing wasn't real, if any of these things weren't real, more than one person that knows stuff, and it's already leaked. That second person's, I was, trying to, you confided me a while ago, and I thought it was normal, but hey, check this out.
Well, I had a meeting with a guy that I had met. He's a theta healer, and he used to teach the Merkaba meditation. He trained with Durn Balama, Kieseldek, and the Flower of Life, and did all this stuff. And it was so funny because I just wanted to talk to him more about the meditation and where things go from here. And it's everything now is based on your heart, going through your heart, no longer in your brain. There's now no duality. It's all singularity, and everything's done through your heart. And we were talking and sitting and talking, and I don't know who he talks to. He goes, "I don't belong to any groups." He goes, "Because I don't want to be followed." He goes, "No church organizations, no Boy Scouts, no nothing." He goes, "Anytime you're involved in it, like a fractal group or he goes, they will watch you or keep their eyes on you. You'll be followed or watched somehow, some way." So he goes, "I don't belong to any groups whatsoever." And when I was talking to him, I actually kind of almost felt like maybe I shouldn't even be talking to him about some of the stuff. He was telling me some stuff, and I was sitting there like, wow, because he's in cahoots with all these people that are involved in all this stuff. And it was like conspiracy stuff. And I was like, man, I don't want to have nightmares tonight. I don't want to get attacked. I don't want to get brain hacked. Or I don't want to, feel like I'm being followed or something like that.
So I noticed like a big part of you is, into the spiritualism stuff, into meditation, but like on the other side, catch wrestling, it's not the gentle arts, Josh calls it the violent art.
Yeah.
So what got you from kind of, neck cranks and shin locks and calf slicers to the meditation, before like the seminar we went to, that was a part of the beat start and the end. Like it was like very like,
I think people need to be enlightened and activated. Today, I think the way the world is changing, I think people need to be aware of that. And martial arts is a vehicle, and it's not just the physical. You have the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. And the highest level of martial arts is the spiritual aspect and the healing aspect, which has to do with love and preservation. So, you can do martial arts. I can wake up every day and want to roll someone and twist somebody and crank on somebody or try to choke them or crank their neck or ankle lock them and then have the ability to also go, hey, I want to put my gloves on and try to punch someone in the face or kick them in the neck or, punch them in the throat and then you're like, and then you wake up some days, you're like, yeah, I don't really feel like being violent today. Athletically, maybe lift some weights and stretch and maybe do a little bit of yoga and lift some weights and meditate. When I meditate, the reason I meditate is because it immediately grounds me, centers me, and focuses me. My biggest problem that I've had, like night terrors and things, is because of the fact that I haven't been grounded. And every single person that I've ever met says, you're not grounded. You're not grounded. Are you having problems sleeping? Do you have these... Sometimes I feel like I'm going in and out of different dimensions or whatever. When I'm sleepy, I'm astral traveling. Everyone travels, but being grounded makes a huge difference. Now you have these grounding sheets. Have you seen them?
No, I haven't.
You put them on your bed.
Oh, it's an actual thing.
Yeah, and it plugs into the wall, or there's another one you can plug into the ground. And they're grounding sheets, and you sleep on them, and it takes away all your pain.
Really?
Yeah. And if you're an athlete, you should have them. If you do jiu-jitsu or MMA or catch wrestling or grappling arts or fighting arts, anything CrossFit, if you're physical, you should get grounding sheets. And then there's another grounding sheet. It's a pad that you use it with your mouse and your hands lay on it. And then you use it, and so your hands get grounded on it. And there's another one for the floor for your computer, and it goes on the floor, and you put your feet on it when you're on the computer. But the grounding sheets, there's also a sleeping bag that actually wraps around you, and you can ground yourself like after a workout, and it takes away your pain.
Really?
And if it's called grounding. There's a book on it, but I forget who researched all of it, and it's very famous today. And a lot of people, athletes, should definitely know about this, because you know how many times during a workout I've left my body. I'm like, what, you train so hard, you're like, man, I could really push myself up. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa. And then you go, man, I think I just stepped out of my body. Because you push yourself so hard and you go so hard. Like, especially we used to go to Luz training, and we used to have to go through this circuit. And it's like a CrossFit circuit. It's Turkish get-ups and ropes and these wall squats and these and it's, you go through it once. The warm-up is all fast feet exercises and ankle exercises, and that's tiring in its own. That's 22 minutes about. And then by the time you do your workout, you go through a circuit, you go, oh, man. Whew. He goes, all right, 2 more. And you're like, what? Well, I think this is enough. Nope, you should probably do at least another one, and if not, 2 more. You're an athlete, right? It's like, oh. And I remember, because it's at 7 in the morning, you got to get there early. So you get there, and you leave, and the floor is all dirty. So like when you leave, you got like mud and dirt all over you. And I remember you get in your car and you look around and you go, boo, and you just start crying. I'm like, that was hard as shit. And that's how you know, like, man, that was a tough ass workout. It literally, not when I did it. I never cried during a workout. I never puked during a workout. And I also don't quit during a workout unless my lower back goes out or something like that.
Yeah, then you're done.
But I look around and I remember just getting in my car. Like I would go to Shooto, and then after Shooto, that was at 9 a.m., 9 to 10:30. I rip over to Hickson's, and I get on the mat because I had a fight coming up, so I just wanted to roll with a bunch of people. And I remember getting out of there and going to some of the guys and getting out of there and just like looking around, and then all of a sudden I look at myself in my mirror in my car. It's like, boo, boo. Just like a little squeak comes out. And you're like, because it was tough. I mean, it was so tough. And the same thing when you're sparring, like 10 rounds. I used to spar 10 rounds a day with an Olympic boxer for 4 days a week for a year, because I was going to fight Golden Boy. I was going to fight for De La Hoya.
Oh, crazy.
And I remember I got my fight. I'm all ready. Yeah, good. I trained a year for this. I'm ready to go. I'm 38 years old. I can't believe I'm boxing at 38. And but I was ready. I was sparring every day. And all of a sudden, all right, we got your partner lined up. It's perfect. I go, all right. How many rounds? 4 rounds. Oh, great. All right, what's the pay? He goes, $800. And I go, and I quit. $800. You got to be kidding me. $800? He goes, yeah, it's $200 a round as a pro. And I go, but I was already a pro fighter, and I'm rolling over. I mean, there should be a higher pay scale for that.
No rollover minutes?
Yeah, no.
It's not like AT&T.
I trained for a year straight in boxing, sparring, and I got my fight, and they told me how much I was getting paid, and I retired. I go, that's it. I'm not doing it. And he's like, oh, come on. I go, no. There's no way I'm fighting for $800 boxing.
I mean, you hear so much about, the fighters getting paid, very little in MMA, but
it's a lot better now than it used to be.
Yeah, I imagine it would be if Fox and all these other big media brands, Viacom owns and the number 2 promotion.
Well, I don't know what the pay scale is now in the UFC. I know it's gone up a little bit, but like my first fight in Japan in Shooto was $1,200. My first pro 5 3-minute round fight.
Okay.
And then it was $1,400 or $1,600, and then $1,800, and the most ever made in Japan fighting was 5 to fight and 1,000 to win. And I got 5,000 to fight and 1,000 to win. And they said, you've asked for too much money in this association, and so therefore you have to write a letter of apology to the association.
Wow.
And I go, why? That was for Shooto. And I go, why? They go, because you're an official fighter. I didn't understand. They said, you're an off-sale fighter. And I'm like, I'm an off-sale fighter. If I'm an off-sale fighter, hey, what does it take to become a on-sale fighter? And he goes, no, off-sale. I go, off-sale? He goes, yeah, official. And I go, I'm an official. Oh, you're an official Shooto fighter, so you get paid less. No, I'm watching John Lewis and Randy Couture walking out of the room, and I'm watching with their envelope with stacks of cash in it. And then I look at my envelope, and it's like a quarter of their envelope. And I was like, And I didn't ever ask. Same with Frank Trigg. But then they said Frank Trigg asked for too much money, but we paid him, and the reason we paid him is to beat him and never ask him back. And I go, but that's very small-minded. They said, no, it makes Shooto very strong. I go, but in the end, what does it do for the association? It doesn't do anything other than prove that, Shooto's a strong fighting art, and the official fighters of Shooto are so strong they could beat all these guys. But you're never going to ask them back. So now who are you going to bring over? And that's what it was. It was different. But Shooto was the oldest MMA fighting league out there. They started in 1982.
Yeah.
And they had more fights in Shooto than any other league has ever had.
So in the light heavyweight division, you're the first American champion,
yes.
right?
And I was the first American to go and fight. 93, yeah. 93. My first fight was June 24th in 93. And then I was at the first UFC after that, and I was like, I thought I wanted to fight in the first UFC. They go, there's UFC. And I go, who's fighting? And they go, I'd like to fight. They go, yeah, we're looking for a shoot fighter. I go, well, I'm a shoot fighter. I mean, who would I have to fight? And they go, well, Hoyce is in it. And I go, Hoyce was my teacher. I go, so does that mean I have to fight Hoyce? And they go, maybe. And I go, no. I said, I want to continue training jiu-jitsu, so I wouldn't fight. And then they said, well, we got Ken Wayne Shamrock. And he was using his middle name, Ken Wayne Shamrock. Yep. And then I realized that he looked the part. He was all big and buffed, and he was a leg hunter.
He was a pro wrestler before he got it. I mean, he was in Pancrase, obviously, but he was a pro wrestler before he did any of that.
Yeah, UWF. And he was big, and he was very athletic and super strong. Yeah. I hit a pillow V arm lock. I was showing him a pillow V arm lock from Keizagatami, from head and arm, and you put it under your leg, called pillow V1. You put it under your leg, and then you grab their head and you pull it. And Ken goes, that would never work on me. And he goes, so don't show that to me, because I'm fighting Chemo, and Chemo's as strong as I am. And he goes, so is Tank. He goes, that would never work on those guys. And I go, well, why wouldn't it work on you? And he goes, go ahead, put it on me. And all of a sudden, I put a pillow V arm lock from Keizagatami on Ken. And he goes, whoo, and he whipped me over his head. And he goes, see, told you, it doesn't work on me. He goes, bro. No, he goes, dog. He goes, don't you know I can bench over 500 pounds? And I was like, oh, I didn't know, first of all. But I was amazed that he actually just threw me over his head like that. I was surprised. I was like, holy crap. And he goes, these guys are all that strong. You understand you're dealing with 240, 250 pound guys that are super strong. Tank was strong. They're like, oh, Tank was fat. Tank was strong. Tank was a tank.
Yeah.
Chemo was strong.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were jacked out. I used to see Chemo at Gold's Gym all the time.
Yeah.
Always lifting weights. And Ken, and I trained Ken and Guy and Vernon. And Ken was strong. And I got his punches zipping and snapping and popping. And I trained him for eight months for that Chemo fight.
That's right.
Went up there, and we had him running up here in the hills we call Snake Mountain.
Yep.
And then I had let my boxing coach run him through some aerobics, and I remember Vernon peeking out of the room. He goes, why? Because Battaglia was an aerobics instructor, but he was a boxer. He was an Olympic boxer. And he made him do all these Olympic, or not Olympic, but aerobic calisthenics, which was really like jump splits, dive rolls, cartwheels.
Oh, for a guy that size, it's got to be hell.
Yeah. Well, so he was 240. So it was tough. But when I went back to his camp later on, he gave me, after the first day, he goes, that was too hard today. And I go, but that's how our camp's got to be, because if you want to win, then it's got to be that hard. And he goes, he hands me a piece of paper. I go, what's this? He goes, just look at it. I look back, and it had a list. 5 bullet points, boom, 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 and a list with the analogy and or the description. And it was his 5 shoulder surgeries. He just had 5 shoulder surgery, 5 things in his shoulder he just had fixed.
Oh, man.
And I said, so you just had shoulder surgery? He goes, yeah. So his wife's like, he just needs to get in the ring. He needs to get in the cage. And I go, oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So I can't throw a new guy at a new guy and then jump on the floor and jump on him and roll. It had to be very generic, just to get his lungs. Instead of running the hills, he had to do fartleks on the elliptical, which were sprints on the elliptical, and then just hitting pads and then just countering shots, because he was fighting Tito.
Oh,
yeah.
So this is the first one, huh?
Second one.
Oh, the second fight. Okay.
Yeah, and I thought he had a good chance, but what happened is Ken had a boxing coach that he brought in, and the boxing coach watched so much footage on Tito. And listen, when are you going to allow a boxing coach to create a game plan for you for MMA when you got an MMA coach sitting right next to you? Yeah. And that's what happened. And he allowed this guy. He goes, here's what we're going to do. And I go, whoa, wait, who's giving you authority to decide that here's what we're going to do? And I said, well, let me listen to what you have to say, and then let's figure it out. And he goes, okay, well, Tito's not good going back on his heels, so what you're going to do is we're going to go in there, and the first thing you're going to do is walk out. You're going to get him right away, and then you're going to go after him. And I go, let me tell you something.
Wrestlers.
I have to tell you something real quick. I go, when you punch and when you walk into a cage and you punch a silverback gorilla in the face, he's going to get angry, and he's going to charge you. I go, I think it's better that Ken backs up in circles and draws him in. This is my theory. And he goes, no, this is what I figured. I'm like, I look at Ken, I go, who's in charge of deciding who makes that decision on how you should, because strategy was that was my thing, was strategy. I could pick out strategy and tactics. I could look at somebody and go, all right, here's where he's weak. Here's where he's strong. Let's do this. I think this is pretty good. And I could figure it out most of the time. I mean, I was really, really good at that. And he listened to his boxing coach. And the fight did the same. That fight went the same way twice.
So
three times. Well, the first fight was great. The second fight, he got put on his back.
So strategy, like working with Ken all the way through, working with Brock, did you have a similar experience working with Brock?
Brock was collective.
All right.
So working with Brock was different because he was collective, because it was Marty Morgan, it was Greg Nelson, it was Caprito.
Okay.
Marty was in charge of overlooking and studying the tapes, and we all were brought in to look, and we were like, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
And it's funny because when he did fight Kane, we knew that he was going to hit the shuck and the duck off of a snatch single or a single leg. He goes here, and he shucks him, and then he ducks and takes it back. And so we practiced that in camp to counter it, and sure enough, he still hit it. I was like, man, he's really good at his stuff. His stuff that Kane does, he's really good at that. And his composure is great. Brock, what happened in the fight, the game plan was to circle, go out and circle half the cage, and come out. And when you come out, you're supposed to hit a double jab cross, followed by a double leg. But what he did is he shot right away. And that's where Kane countered him. Yep. So the double jab cross was forgot. Or maybe Brock didn't want to do it. I don't know. But we kept saying, okay, here's the game plan. You walk out ding, ding. Instead of going straight out, you circle half the cage. Now he's like, oh, he's creating an angle. And then you go in and you hit a double 1-2, followed by a double. Because the double 1-2 usually scores all the time. If people think you're going to hit a 1-2, And you go 1, 1, 2. So you go crack the egg, break the egg, explode the egg. That's the double 1, 2. And then you follow up immediately on a half beat double egg or a blast double.
I mean, trying to carry, like, he has to cut down to 265. So I don't know how many shots you can really take from a guy that size. He's a different athlete than just about everyone else that's been in the UFC. Brock.
Oh, Brock, yeah.
Brock.
Yeah, well, both of them. But yeah, Brock. As far as his training, he brings the best guys in his camps. He puts a lot of money into his camps. He did. Probably one of the best heavyweight camps out there. I mean, you should have seen the people in the room. I was like, holy crap. Look at the room. There's a picture of the room, and I was one of the smaller guys in the room. And they were all
you're not a small guy.
High-level wrestlers. These guys are all, collegiate, 2-time, 3-time All-America, Olympic alternates. All these guys that he brought in were all high-level wrestlers. And then we brought in Pat Barry and Shane Delisario, God rest his soul. And I was doing pads, and we were doing catch wrestling, and then Caprito came in for jiu-jitsu, and Caprito would spar. So we were all part of collectively for the sparring. Greg Nelson, very good at pad holding and pummeling, and the camps are off the hook, and they're in Minnesota, which was cool. I got to go home. I'm from Minnesota and Alexandria. My grandparents are from Glenwood, and Alexandria was right there, and the fishing in there is unbelievable. And it was just the nature and being there, and that's Viking country.
Yep.
Paul Bunyan, and I really, the rune stones are there, and I felt really at home there. I really enjoyed it. And there were times when Brock would say, hey, I'm not feeling good. I feel like I'm going to get sick. All right. Hey, I'm still going to pay you guys for being here. He goes, good. Why don't you just go fishing?
That's cool.
So we're like, I go, you don't have to pay me. I mean, if I'm here, I'll just go fishing. He goes, no, we're still paying you, but just go fishing for a couple days. So I'm out there till late at night catching fish on the docks.
Badass.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But that camp was great. And then people don't understand just, you're underneath Brock, rolling, and you got this big iron blanket laying on you.
Yeah.
Who can transition the speed of a middleweight. And then you're thinking, man, that would really suck if this guy was raining punches down on me right now.
I would make it the analogy of, imagine there's a full size, like, commercial grade hot water heater coming down the stairs at you like a grand piano, but it knows how to wrestle and knows how to do
it. Moves when you move, it moves with you.
It's like it's happening. It's not much you can do. It's happening.
He might be fighting again. I heard either DC or
what I was under the impression, or the rumor was, basically the winner of the DC Stipe Miocic title thing they're doing for the heavy. I mean, it's a heavyweight title fight, whereas DC was kind of a heavyweight anyway.
Yeah,
but
he could go both.
He was really dominant at heavyweight. Been very good at light heavyweight as well.
He's both. He's smooth as shit. I like his style. I like watching him warm up. I watch him warm up. I go, that's how you warm up.
And he still runs the AKA Kids Wrestling program.
Oh, good.
He's
a great coach. He's got a great demeanor. You can tell he's got a nice heart. First time I met him, I was kind of watching him, and you can tell like some people are dickish.
He's not.
No, not at all. He's like an upstanding guy. I mean, he's got a good heart. You can tell he's got a good heart when you see him and you meet him, and he's really, I don't know Kane very well.
It's quiet. Nice guy.
He seems, nice guy. The quiet types are the dangerous types.
He's all about his kid. He's all about his family. He's a real chill guy. He's been nothing but humble and friendly.
That's good.
Just nice
that's
guy.
Good to know. The thing is like, I think that's the biggest thing too, is because so many people are just all about themselves, and then what happens when you're done fighting? I mean, what do you do? It shouldn't always be about yourself. I mean, obviously you want to become popular and huge, but what are you going to give back? It's not all take. When you fight, it's all taking. You're getting, and then you give to your fans, but you want to get paid, and you want to become famous, and some people want to become the champions. But then what do you do when you're done fighting? What are you going to get back?
Yeah, for being as successful as both of those guys have been, DC and Kane they both set a really good example in terms of just being like more about the team and just being like just setting a good example overall. Just positive, humble, modest, and they seem to spend more time giving back than.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, there's those.
Javi's a great coach and was a great champion, and I like his pad holding and his theory. We were talking about wrapping hands. I was asking him, I said, do you make your guys wrap their hands every day? Because my boxing coach would make us not wrap our hands when we'd spar a lot. He said that way when you're not trying to knock someone's head off. So you don't hit full force. And then it was Javi that said, hey, how do you know how hard you can hit if you don't wrap your hands? And it's funny because in Shooto, I would just put the tape around my knuckles.
Yep.
And around my wrist. So I never had my hands wrapped. I only had my hands wrapped for one fight. And that was my last fight. And it was weird to me. But I zapped the guy with an overhand. And I don't know. It's just different. I think because Shooto, I always wanted to grab. And I thought that the wrapping would hinder your gripping, your ability to grip.
Huh. Yeah, I guess so. Your fingers are a little bit kind of puffy,
Yeah, you have a piece of tape and you have a Shooto glove, which is the MMA glove. The UFC glove is more like a Pride glove.
I like the Bellator / I think Strikeforce had them towards the end as well, where it kind of like comes over the fingertips where you can still actually grapple, but you don't poke anybody in the eye.
Oh, because they curve?
Yeah. It's kind of open, but then it kind of curves over.
Yeah, so you don't have your fingers extended.
You can't do that range finding thing. They made that illegal now anyway. And
really?
Yeah, like you're not allowed to actually check range like this. Your hand has to be up.
You can't touch their head.
Fingers can't be extended.
Oh.
Like the gesture.
How about this?
That's okay, but the gesture like that, open hand like this way, even the gesture itself, you'll get warned.
Huh.
As of like 2017 or 18. It might have been 2018, but a year could totally pass and some like a tidbit like that would float right by my head. There's been enough of them.
Wow.
So, yeah, Brock's one of those. I always saw him as a special type of athlete, like the size versus like what he's able to do, just the whole thing. I feel like if he didn't do the pro wrestling thing, went like right NCAA, right into MMA, like a lot of the guys we talked about as top heavyweights, I don't even know if they'd be in the conversation. So, like, if he went right to it. But, I mean, the sport, it's a different sport now, so it's hard to say. Like, if he would have went right, 99, 2000, probably when he would have been, like, primed to get right from college into MMA. It was a different animal. The money would be different. There's no Fox. There's no big pay-per-view deals and stuff. So it's hard to say. Mm-hmm. But just what he's been able to do, just coming back and forth, putting camps together up in Minnesota. I mean, he's in, they went to Canada, didn't he?
Yeah, he bought a place up in Canada. And
Saskatoon or something. Or
farmland, and I think he's up there full time. He still has his place in Alexandria, I think. Some of his family is there, but he's pretty much moved everybody up to what I've been told, where he's at in Canada, and farming and hunting, and it's beautiful.
And it seems like he keeps his circle pretty close.
Yeah.
Like, not really trying to be out there in the public eye.
Well, no. I mean, he's a very personal person. I mean,
it's cool.
Like they were saying, hey, Frank Mir said this about you, and he goes, Frank Mir doesn't even know who I am. He doesn't know me. And they said, well, what do you have to say about Frank? He goes, I don't know. I don't know Frank. So I have nothing to say. They were trying to get him to say something, and he didn't have anything to say. He just goes, I'm just here to fight.
Yeah, he's a career athlete. I mean, if you go back to having hundreds of matches, per year in your college career, and you're like, it's another job.
Well, also being broke.
Yeah.
Because he was broke. I mean, he suffered through college, barely having enough food to eat. As a wrestler, you're cutting weight, and then you barely have enough money to buy your food. So, I mean, his hard work, he's a self-made multi-millionaire because of the fact that he has trained hard and he's got great opportunities and his charisma and his size. And I remember my brother going, look at this guy. And he sent me a newspaper clipping and an article and something about Brock Lesnar. And he goes, man, imagine that guy fighting after college.
Yeah.
And then he sent it to me. And then all of a sudden I saw Brock Lesnar in pro wrestling.
Yep.
and it's like what's his name from Kurt Angle.
Yep.
Same thing. I was on an airplane and the flight attendant was his girlfriend, and I had a shoot wrestling hat on, and she's like, "Oh, you do that?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, my boyfriend, he's going into the WWE, and he's a top level Olympian wrestler." And I go, "Who's that?" She goes, "Kurt Angle." And I was like, "Whoa." I was coming back from Pittsburgh, and
It's like a national hero at the time.
yeah, and I was like, "So does he want to fight, or does he want to go?" And she goes, "No, he's just thinking about going into pro wrestling." I go, "Well, there's a lot of money to be made, and he'll be instantly famous."
There's been a lot of high level amateur wrestlers and even Olympians as well that just didn't translate, but he was instantly great at that job. Like, he's going to go down as one of the best ever.
He transitioned really well, and then the thing is like, his wrestling's still great, unbelievable. And that was the thing. Like, I had a couple guys that were training him to possibly get ready to fight. I just don't think he ever fought, did he?
Kurt?
Yeah.
No.
I had a couple guys in Pennsylvania that were training him to get ready to fight, and he never fought. And I was surprised because, like, Bobby Lashley's been here. He fought, and CM Punk.
Yeah. He was in
He trained here, and then he went to the Gracie Academy a little bit. I don't know where he's at now.
Duke Rufus.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, because he lives not that far. He's a Chicago guy.
Oh, okay.
So being able to, was it Wisconsin or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few of my friends train with him.
It's a great camp. Pat Barry was there. Duke's a good coach.
Who's the other guy?
Those guys I've known Duke and his brother since the karate days.
Damn.
That's like 80s.
His brother was a kickboxer too.
Yes.
Yep.
And I saw them in K1 fighting, and they transitioned over pretty good. Like, it was American kickboxing, and then they learned from a lot of the Thais and changed their style a lot. But tough.
Angle's a little older than those guys too, though. A couple years.
Yeah. Are you sure?
Pretty sure, because he was already a gold medalist in like 98 by 96. It was the 96 Olympics, because that was the one in Atlanta. So he would already had to have been through school. He's got a degree. And
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah, the sorcerer.
Yeah.
Googs.
Yeah, it's funny. One of my old fighters was like, knew everything about everything, and I was like, wow, how do you know so much? And he would never tell me. And then I caught him. Okay, Google.
Oh, the Oracle.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask the Oracle.
He was asking Google. He Googled everything. How much misinformation is on Google?
Wikipedia, anybody can write anything about anyone. Eventually, if it's wrong, and people notice, they fix it, because there's people that just stay there all freaking day.
Oh.
That's all they do. It's because it's community contributed. So you could change any Wikipedia article and put whatever you want there, but then somebody will go in and fix it, because they have like a whole hierarchy of moderators, but no one's paid. It's just we make Wikipedia with all kinds of nonsense. And there could be an article online that looks pretty accurate, and it'll be cited on Wikipedia like, oh, it says it there. Well, that was just some journalist, his basement stone writing stuff. And now it's a fact, So we're painting our own history.
I think he's 48.
Yeah. And, you figure Brock's like closer to 40 than 48.
Brock's like 42 or
is he?
40. I think he's 42 now. He's like 10 years younger than me. I'm almost 52. My birthday's in June. So him and Josh were like 10 years younger than me. It's the next generation.
I remember seeing Josh on TV as UFC champion, like
when he was a kid.
Yeah, he was.
He beat Randy.
Was he even 20?
I think he was right around there. 19 or 20 or.
He's still the youngest heavyweight champion in history.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that was when Randy had hair. Randy had hair, and he was heavyweight.
I trained with Randy before I ever fought in the UFC. I trained with Randy and Rico and Frank Trigg and Vladimir Matyshenko and Dan Henderson. I remember I went in a room one day. Rico brought me to a room, and there was these wrestlers, and he goes, all right, I need you to go in there and just try to submit guys as much as you can. And I remember I rolled, and I got done, and Rico goes, hey, how'd you do today? I go, I only got 4 submissions. He's like, really? I go, yeah. You act surprised. I go, normally it's a lot more than that. And he goes, well, you know who you rolled with? And I was like, no, I don't know. I mean, I had known Randy and known of Henderson, but I didn't really know them, and not very well, anyways. And then what's his name from Dennis Hall from Wisconsin? He was a Greco-Roman gold medalist, and there's a couple other guys there. But it was interesting because I got to try to attack them and roll with them and try to submit them. And
that was like every Olympic alternate for basically the 90s. And
that was before they ever fought. And I remember Randy getting ready for his first fight. He fought Tony the Viking, the big Finnish guy. He died.
Oh, he's a WWF guy too. It was Malm or something?
Yeah, yeah, he's from Finland.
That was Ludwig Borga and like pro wrestling. They made him into like this Finnish, like, I don't know what you call it with the character, but he was just like this. They're supposed to be the foreign, like, unstoppable guy.
He was a big guy.
He fought in Pride and a number of Japanese promotions too. 250 or something.
He
looked like a power lifter.
He punched. So we had the same boxing coach, and I remember one time. I don't even think I should say it, but this boxing coach was training him, and he didn't take shit. This guy was half Australian, half German, and all of a sudden, this boxing coach's back was turned, and he cracked him. He hit him like in the back of the head or something. You know, he cold cocked him or something. And the coach walks over to his bag and grabs a gun and puts it to his head. And he goes, "If you ever do that again, I will kill you." And everyone's like, "Holy shit!" But we didn't realize that the boxing coach, you know, was dealing with a lot of street kids. Like, some of his guys were off the street, and, you know, I was like, why would he have a gun in his bag? But, you know, who are you dealing with? One of his fighters fought and then took a dive, took a buyout,
worked fight
in another country.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Oh, I had food poisoning." Took a dive, lost. They go back to America. Charlie goes back to his house, and all of his stuff is gone. The guy went in and just stole all of his stuff and disappeared and went back to the streets and moved back to another country.
Dude.
So I guess that's what he was dealing with.
That's cutthroat. Shit.
Yeah, those were some tough times. I used to train at Boxing Works in Hermosa while I was at the Inosanto Academy, and then I trained at Hickson's, and then in the Machados, I was at Hickson's till about 94, and then the Machados in 95. I started in 95.
So you were around Horian and Hickson and Hoist, like, all during that first couple UFCs before, right around my first lesson was in 1986 with Horian. Cool.
And I had an idea that I was going to go down there because of the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu fighters. I thought, man, these guys are like animals, and they're challenging everybody. I thought for sure I was going to have to street fight or something. You know, I didn't know what I was dealing with. And he taught me a self-defense lesson, and then he explained things, and he showed me the scientific side and the art aspect of self-defense. And then in the end, he complimented me. He said, "I've never felt in so much danger. You're doing so well. Thank you. I can't wait to see you again next time." And then he gave me a hug, and I was like, holy crap, these guys are nice.
Waiting for the choke to come. It doesn't happen.
And I was like, wow, these guys are nice guys. And the next thing you know, I got hooked. Just because it was always a compliment and then a hug, and then bang, we'll see you next time. So I was doing private. I got privates when it was $40 a half hour.
Wow.
With Horian, then Hoist, and then Hickson, and then the Machados.
So I've had Art Davey on, and he kind of walked me through like the process of the first UFC and the talks with Horian and Hoist and Hickson, you know, having Hickson in, you know, one of the first couple of UFCs and it being Hoist instead. When, you know, being around that stuff, you know, in the earlier sort of, well, when the first couple of UFCs are happening, like, what was the feeling like? It's got to be Hickson, right? Because Hickson was like, he was
the number one right there. But yeah. Here's what happened. He was already established. He had already had a bunch of fights, and they were trying to bring Hoist up because he hadn't had any fights.
Gotcha.
And so in that size range, Hoyler was too small for that. So it was Hoist, and he hadn't fought. And so next thing you know, Hoist, they said, let's build up Hoist. So instead of Hickson, because you're already established, you've already fought, why don't we bring up Hoist? That's what they did. They brought up Hoist.
And people tend to make a big deal. It's like, well, wouldn't you have put, it's like, look, at that point, the UFC wasn't what we know it as now. It was just another show. It was in, like, Japan was where you went, Brazil or Japan.
After the fights had been established, I remember in like 94, 93, 94, 95, 96.
About like UFC 3 or 4 or something. Or
well, I called Hickson and I started talking to him and I said, if you had to fight, who'd you be interested to fight? He goes, either Mark Kerr or Mark Coleman. And that's when they're in the prime.
Smashing machine, like they were in that wrecking crew, whatever you call it.
And I was like, wow, that would be great. I watched, do you ever see Hickson go with Tom Hazel?
No.
Tom Hazel is the wrestling coach at El Camino, and the guy could pummel with a tree and win. The guy's that tough.
All right.
His warm-up is 45 minutes of pummeling. That's his warm-up for his wrestling practice. But him and Tom Hazel went, and they went, and then finally in the end, Hickson was able to, I think he got an armbar in the end. He armbarred him, but it was a lot of work. So it was funny because we had Stefanos. Stefanos was this big Greco-Roman wrestler that loved to put his knees on people's neck from side control.
It's friendly.
And this guy was really super duper strong. He lifted weights every day. He looked really menacing. He was actually in Best of the Best, I think 2. And he played himself.
Oh, wow.
I think that was his name. I don't know. But he's this big Greek, mean-looking guy. And so Stefanos was a wrestler. And Hickson used to always, Limon would demonstrate the techniques and stuff. And Hickson would come in and go, and he would correct some things sometimes. No, you got to do it like this. Not always. But Limon basically led the warm-up. And then Hickson would come in and teach. And it was interesting because he used Stefanos all the time to demonstrate. He goes, and he'd make Stefanos resist, and he would demonstrate the move. And it was interesting because he would take the biggest guy in class and make everyone watch him do it on the biggest guy in class. And then he said, listen, I just want you to know. He said, a lot of you guys are saying, oh, he's just a wrestler. He's this. He goes, I want to tell you something. If you get with a good wrestler, you got your hands full. I just want to let you know that. That's what Hickson said.
Oh, for sure.
And it's funny because Mark Eckhart was one of Hickson's really great guys at that time, and he was a purple belt, and he was beating everybody in class. And anyways, so I remember it was 5 years ago. I go, hey, Mark, I have a school. Do you ever roll anymore? He goes, yeah. And I go, hey, you should come in. We should roll a little bit. Because I want to see, because sometimes he would footlock me or he would control me. I used to get mad because I was going from Shooto and I was fighting. So I was like, all right, I want to see if I got any better. So I said, hey, do you want to roll again? I wasn't trying to get him back. I just wanted to see if I got any better, as you should. You rolled someone that kicked your ass. 10, 15 years later, you want to roll again and see if you got another chance. But I rolled with him, and he did some things, and I go, where did you wrestle? Did you wrestle in high school? Or he goes, I never wrestled. And I go, yeah, you're a wrestler. You had to be a wrestler. And he goes, no. And I go, where did you learn this and this and this? He goes, that's from Hickson. I go, but you got to figure that what I saw, if you looked at some of the old footage, his game was different when he used to go with Holes. He was more of a guard puller, worked more off his back, and Holes was more of a top game because of his wrestling and sambo and aggressive style of jiu-jitsu. And I think when Holes passed away, I think Hickson emulated his game, maybe changed his style a little bit, and his style changed to, he's still unbelievable off of his back. I mean, he'd put his hands in his belt and nobody could pass his guard. The only one I think that might have gotten through his guard once was Fabio Gurgel that I ever saw, but with his hands in his belt. So obviously his guard was unbelievable. But it's interesting to see because his top game, his balance and control was so unbelievable. And it's funny because he's now coming out to the public to teach the invisible jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And what's interesting there is the fact that there's a lot of aspects that people don't see or don't know. It's like you're doing jiu-jitsu without knowing this secret trick or element that you're not really getting or doing. Sensitivity, connectivity, using your hips, your sensitivity, connecting with your opponent. Now you're not two people, but one and reacting. And it's interesting. But what he's done is really shown the points of jiu-jitsu that a lot of people don't really see. The hidden aspect of what he's really doing with his balance and his base. And so that balance and base, I think, was developed later on. And I remember because Rickson was teaching a sit-out from a turtle, like a failed sprawl, like a failed shot. And the guy's got a chest squeeze, and he was teaching a sit-out. And I was like, that's definitely wrestling. But interesting. And he used to always, for my privates, he'd go, okay, you're going to try and take me down today. So for my whole session, I was trying to throw or take down Rickson. He kept putting me on my back, throwing me and taking me down over and over and over. And it was funny because I was paying him for him to train to have someone try to take him down. And it was worth it, obviously. But I was like, hey, how did I get tricked into trying to take Master Rickson down? And I thought I was supposed to be learning something. Well, I did. I learned that I couldn't take Rickson down. That's what I learned. When I trained with Hoist, I learned more than anything, I learned how to tap with every part of my body. Yeah. I tap with my fingers. I tap the side. I tap the floor with my feet. I tap with my mouth. I used to create little holes so I could breathe. And then I figured out that you never tap somebody on their face because they don't let the choke go.
Yeah, because you're actually slapping them in the face.
Yeah, you're like tapping them on the face, and they go, "Oh, okay, if that's how it is." And they put you out.
Yeah.
And then being able to train with the Machados and then train with Rickson or train with Master Rigan and having him in privately and doing my camps, such a mastery of the old school, the old jiu-jitsu, which is the stuff in the 90s as opposed to the stuff today, and he does both. Yeah. And he I think, to be honest with you, I think he watches all the competitions. I think he watches superstars. He watches their games. And the fact that the De La Riva hook system is not a new system. To a lot of people, it's new. The spiral in, the spiral out, the half guard, the side half guard, the scissor side half guard, and all these new games. Rigan would come and he'd go, okay, and you go tornado guard. He goes, oh, the tornado. And he starts talking. He goes, oh, what about the worm guard? Oh, interesting. And then he'll start talking about it. And then he says, listen, going back to basics, don't forget if you're not a master of the basics, why do you want to learn a berimbolo? If it fails, you got nothing to back you up.
The back of your head is where a fist can go.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. The other thing that they were saying is you'd watch Master Rickson sitting on the side. This guy was sitting behind him and someone else. I forget who it was. And they were talking. He goes, very interesting how it's evolved to this. He goes, but definitely not useful in a real self-defense match. I mean, how the face is so exposed to get punched, because of the lack of striking. And so I think the EBI is spectacular where they have the strikes. I think that's cool. I have a combat jiu-jitsu. I have a ground and pound class that I teach, and then I have a combat jiu-jitsu class that I'm starting, and it's gi with MMA gloves on.
That's cool.
So you can punch and you can submit. So you get to work all of it.
Yeah, a lot of these positions these guys are pulling in just regular EBI without the combat jiu-jitsu component. It's like, well...
Well, we used to do that at Hickson's in the early 90s. He goes, okay, we're going to start here, and your whole objective is to slap each other in the face.
Yep.
And then some guys are like, oh, okay, and then they're hauling off, and then fights would break out. And I'm like, hey, let's just try to touch each other in the face. So when he yells go, you hit the ground, and you still touch each other in the face when you could touch somebody in the face. And what that would help with was your posture and keeping your chin up so your face was out of range of getting hit. And then also in positions, like every position you're in, and a guy's slapping your face, those are punches, which was like crossbody, or the guy would get a headlock, Keizagatami, start punching your face, and then also the mount.
Oh, yeah.
And even the back.
Oh, yeah. Just come across with that forearm.
Yeah, right, and even this guy punching, like here, I had a fight that almost got knocked out from being mounted on somebody. The fighter on the bottom almost knocked him out.
Oh, man.
He got punched in the face so hard, there were like flashes, like, whoa. And I was like, man, that's
like a Jeet Kune Do thing, like the Bruce Lee, like it was a 2-inch
It was
punch.
Josh versus Gilbert Eval. Gilbert was generating so much power from his back, punching from the bottom. It was strange. It was really odd because I was like, well, I mean, he was getting flash, not knockouts, but flash hits on him, and you could see it was like, and I was like, holy crap, that guy's got that much power hitting from his back, and how he couldn't captivate an arm and to finish it. It was odd.
It's a strong guy.
Yeah, but it was just odd to see because Josh was a master grappler, and I was just watching, and I was like, that's really, really bizarre. That's really oddly bizarre. That this guy could, because you're always taught, the best thing is you're defending from your back, not punching, and this guy was just punching as hard as he could.
And you figure, Josh, like the way he finished Dean Lister with that Keizagatami, the neck crank from there, like
Fat man choke. We call it fat man, or we used to call it 270. The reason we call it 270 is because you feel like you're 270 when you do it, and nobody knew what 270 meant. So when you go 270, that means fat man choke. If I yell fat man choke, everyone knows fat man choke. It's like fat man roll. When they reach over and you do the fat man roll,
oh yeah,
drop the arm. I call it the apex. I go apex. That means trap and roll.
Nice.
That's like the Peterson almost.
There you go.
But if you yell Peterson, they're like,
you mean like a cranby roll with the wrist in?
Yeah, but the Peterson is, well, some people could just call the fat man roll Peterson, and some you tripod on your head, you run, and then you peek out the back.
Gotcha.
And then if you sit out with it, it's actually a reverse shoulder lock.
Oh, what's his name? Eduardo Tellis. He calls it the turtle plata.
Turtle plata. Yeah, that's what it is.
All his stuff is turtle guard. Yeah. Turtle.
I like it. I like the, you got to figure, like in Japan, the turtle was really popular in Shooto because there was no punching. So a lot of guys would just do turtle, and then you'd have to try to break them down. Yeah. And I remember getting mounted on a guy, and he takes his hands. He doesn't do this because you can't punch a face. He goes like this and puts him under his back. So I'm like looking at him going,
chicken wing?
No, I mounted, sitting on him, and he had his hands behind his back. So I was like, and then they're like, no thumbs. No, because you can't put your thumbs in the hole.
Simpson choke?
Yeah. Can't put your thumbs in the hole. So I was like, and then I did the Ezekiel or the fist choke on him. And with Shooto gloves, because they're soft, it doesn't work. I hit the Ezekiel choke like 3 times in fights and could never finish because of the fact that the side of the glove is so soft. Oh. And I was doing the fist on the throat. I don't do the fist in the throat, and I don't do the wedge. I do the fist on the windpipe here and chest on the. But I couldn't get it, and I was like, "Wow,
it's like a squeak toy kind of."
Yeah, yeah. I was like. And I hit a head and arm. I hit the fat man choke on Ronald June when I fought him in 2000. And I had it, and I held it, and I'm sitting there. And the ref goes, do something. And I go, I am. And because nobody knew what it was. So I was sitting there, I'm cranking, I'm holding it. I'm like, just a matter of seconds, he's going to tap. And he goes, do something, move. And he goes, break. And I was like, oh, why'd you break that? I go, that's a choke. He didn't even know it was a choke. It's a chest choke. It's an asphyxiation.
Yeah,
I call it the Coleman because it was Mark Coleman that did it to Dan Severn. And I watched that fight over and over, and that's when I got it, and that's when I showed Rico Rodriguez the fat man choke. So when Rico went against Dean Lester a long time ago, he hit the fat man choke on Dean Lester and caught him.
Oh, wow.
And so move forward 20 years, I'm training Josh, and Josh goes against Dean Lester. And I told Josh, I said, here's 2 moves that he probably doesn't know. Number 1 is the mother's milk. Number 2 is the 270.
Mother's milk sounds pretty raunch.
The mother's milk is the mother smother. It's a chest smother. You put their head in the V part of your chest, and then you flatten your arms like this, and then you just sprawl on their face. And their nose goes like this, and they can't breathe. And so sometimes they'll try to breathe, and when they blow out, it sounds like this on your chest. But then you can't suck in because you can't, and so they tap. So I've got 3 things. It's called mother's milk. If your shirt's wet, it's sour mother's milk.
Oh.
And if you get it and you hold it too long, it's called the NDE because they go into the tunnel. And hopefully they'll see a white light, not a dark light. The NDE is a near-death experience.
Oh, there you go.
You hold it and they're like gone. And I've actually had guys not tap, and they're like, oh, that's not. And you can hear them, they go. And so what I do is I take their hands and I fold them and I put them on my stomach, and now I put my chest on their face and I hold it. And you have to tap with your feet. So this guy didn't know how to tap with his feet, and I'm holding it, and he's like struggling, and I'm holding it. He's like kicking, but he's not tapping with his feet. And then all of a sudden he starts to go blank, and I go, oh shit, I think he's out. I let him go, and he's like, and I think it was like doing an ayahuasca trip. He came back and he goes, I was out in the universe, man. I think I was dead. I don't know. I choked a guy out one time because all my new students, I used to train in my garage. I had a garage, and I used to do kickboxing and MMA and grappling in my garage. And I go, initiation, you have to get choked out. So I put this guy in a choke, and he wouldn't tap, and he starts to try to breathe, and I squeeze. And on the average, it should take, 5 seconds?
Yeah.
And he's fighting. It's 10 seconds. He's trying to breathe. And boom, he's gone. And all of a sudden, I lay him down. I look at his lips are purple, and there's foam coming out of the side. And all of a sudden,
healthy sign.
I prop him up on his butt, and I bounce him on his tailbone, and I pump his chest, and he's not coming back. And I go, all of a sudden,
shouldn't laugh.
And all of a sudden I go, and I'm starting to hit him between his shoulder blades. I'm bouncing him and pumping his chest. He's not coming back. And I go, oh shit, I think I killed him. And I go, and all I could imagine was me going to jail and having Big Bubba in my cell as my roommate. And I was like, oh no. Oh, this isn't going to be good. Oh man, there could be rape involved. That's what I'm thinking. And all of a sudden about 15 seconds later, he goes, and he goes, Guru. He was Filipino. He goes, Guru, I saw my family. I was back in the Philippines. I was with my family. And I think he died. He went back to the Philippines. And he was with his whole family. And I go, that trip was free, by the way.
Oh, shit.
You didn't have to get a ticket.
Come back next week. You were here. You were out an hour.
That was the last time I ever choked anybody out again. I literally, my buddies all were going, I think he's dead. And this one guy goes, Erik, you've killed him. And I was like, I was panicking. And literally those thoughts are going through my head. I literally thought I was going to prison and I was going to have Bubba as my roommate.
That would not be good, man. That would not be good. And I mean, reverse mother's milk. You don't want mother's milk from the cellmate. That's never a good place.
The mother smother.
The no mother smother in jail. That's a prohibited.
The double wrist lock choke.
Oh,
you go like this, and you do a double wrist lock.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great.
You go like this,
yeah.
And then when they go to their knees, they thrust your hips forward.
What?
No, never mind.
Oh,
double wrist lock choke.
Yep.
It's like the Father Nelson choke. Yeah, you know that one.
Yep. That's I'm saving that one. Yeah. Saving that one.
Somebody did that to me. I forget who it was. Because everyone has all these jokes, but they do, what's this? I go, oh, that's a quarter Nelson. They go, what's this? I go, that's a half Nelson. They go, what is this? I go, well, that's a full Nelson. And they go, what's this? He throws his hips around my. I go, oh, and he goes, that's a father Nelson. I was like,
Catholic joke.
Oh, man.
Catholic joke.
Bad. But I didn't make that up. I just repeated it. But somebody did that to me, and I was embarrassed. And then I also got the double wrist lock choke. Greg Nelson goes, have you seen the double wrist lock choke? I go, no. And he goes like this, and he goes, you go like this, and he goes like this, and I drop to my knees. I go, oh! And then he thrusts his hips forward. And then right then, Guru Dan walks out of his office, and he goes, oh, Minnesota guys. Dan Inosanto walks right by when Greg's doing a double hip thrust into my mouth, and my mouth is wide open, screaming with 2 wrist locks on.
Yeah, he's teaching the third hook jiu-jitsu, right?
That was bad.
The rear naked poke.
But I also, the Turkish Turnover, do you know the Turkish Turnover? It's from the turtle. Actually, so Seafood Larry Hartzell and I we'd get all these old Japanese books. And he goes, hey, you got to see this, come over. And I go to his house. And he goes, look at Fujiwara. And Fujiwara's a wrestler over there, a pro wrestler. And he's got a picture of guys in a turtle, and he's like this.
He's an arm lock guy, right?
And he goes, no, just a catch wrestler.
Okay.
Yeah, he with the Inoki group, he does all the catch wrestling.
Okay.
But it's like 1, 2, and he goes like this, and the guy's like sprawling. And so this guy, Greg Nelson was this is the same camp at the Inosanto Academy, and all of a sudden, this guy Bernie Dudley is he's from Princeton, and we were all there. Jeff Jones was there, Bernie was there, and I was with Greg that day, and I go, oh, Turkish Turnover. I go, boop, and Greg goes, oh. And Bernie goes, what was that? And I go, it's a Turkish Turnover. He goes, oh, show me. And I go, oh, okay. And so he didn't know what I did.
Oh, man.
And then everyone circled around, and I go, whoop. And he goes, oh, geez, oh, God. And he like dove like a dolphin and sprawled, and everyone was clapping. It was like, and I go, that's actually from a book. I'll show you the actual technique. It's a Turkish Turnover. But I have a DVD I made on turnovers, tilts and turnovers, and turnovers from the quarter position, which is a turtle. And I show it's got like 52 turnovers on it. And then I go, and this is a Turkish Turnover with James Wilkes. And I go, whoop. And he goes, whoa, whoa. And they show him do it slow motion in the air like this. And he's like a dolphin in the air sideways. And then he lands on the ground. They show it once, and then they show it again in slow-mo. And then I go, the Turkish Turnover, it works. It's on video. We'll have to get it and put it out. It's pretty funny.
What's the website for that?
I'll get the download and I'll send it to you.
Perfect,
yeah.
Perfect.
We'll
save that for the plugs later.
Yeah.
Well, man, we've covered quite a bit of different information.
Well, I mean, first of all, so I'm from Minnesota, and Minnesotans, it's literally a matter of seconds when you meet a Minnesotan before a joke comes out. And you go like, when you meet a Minnesotan, you go, hey, how you doing? Good. You shake their hand, and all of a sudden you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, did I ever tell you about this guy? And then it's always like, it's because we always tell jokes. I don't know.
It's like, nice to meet you. A rabbi, a preacher, and a truck driver going to a bar.
That's right.
You'll never guess what happened next.
But there's guys that are like that, right? That just all they do is tell you jokes.
Yeah.
Or that just goof off. And
yeah,
I mean, I've got a couple of friends. Every time you see each other, we just laugh because there's always something funny going to happen.
Yep.
And that's why I love having Greg Nelson in, because like Greg's funny. He's got funny stories, and getting Greg Nelson and Rick Fay together, that is the best. Rick Fay was one of my first JKD teachers. In 1982, I met him at my karate school. He was teaching Kali, trapping, boxing, and Muay Thai.
Nice.
And I was like, wow, I don't really like the weapon stuff, but that guy must be a boxer. And then I saw him do some trapping, and then I saw him doing some Thai boxing, and then I go, wow. And then right after that, I go, hey, what are you teaching? He goes, Jeet Kune Do Kali. I'm under Dan Inosanto. I was under Bruce Lee.
Oh, nice.
And I go, where are you at? He goes, Minneapolis. I go, do you teach? Are you open to take students? He goes, yeah. And literally a week later, I quit karate and was at his school. And he thought I was a weirdo. So they locked me out. Him and Greg Nelson were sparring full contact sparring gear with sticks and helmets and hockey breezers because they were security for Target in downtown Minneapolis, which is rough. They'd have street fights every day. And so those guys were literally doing MMA with sticks and just punching each other in the face. And I go, oh, man, this is cool. And he goes, and then Greg's like, weirdo alert. And then Rick comes over. He goes, oh, we're not open yet. And he goes, you got to get out. And he's just put me out in the hallway and shut the door.
Took a little while to get into the groove there and get to hit people with sticks.
Well, the thing is these guys were doing the mixture of martial arts that was combative because we had to. You're getting in street fights every day. So you know that you're going to wrestle or grapple. You know that you're going to get punched. You know that there may be a knife involved or a weapon involved. Greg got stabbed through his knuckle with a knife. A guy drew a knife, and he went to do a Tan Sao Da, which is Wing Chun. You go like this, and the knife went through the guy. He thought the guy was going to thrust it, and he hooked it. And it went through and he had blood spray his face. And then Greg went into turbo mode. He got the guy on the ground and he was ready to punt the guy's head because he saw blood all over and he didn't know whose blood it was. And right when he was about to punt him, a big guy grabbed him and said, no, because he thought that Greg was hurting the guy. He didn't know that the guy just stabbed Greg.
No.
So that was like a daily thing. These guys were dealing with that. But it's kind of cool because, to be able to go from a sport karate background, and I boxed, and to go right into the JKD at that time, it was the early 80s.
Nice. So, catch wrestling, Jeet Kune Do, little Kali.
Jiu-Jitsu, judo, wrestling. I got to train with some of the best wrestlers in the world. Rico Ciparelli was my coach for about 7 years. I got to trade catch wrestling, a lot of submissions for wrestling. And that's when they were getting into MMA, so I helped them with the MMA stuff.
So if you had to summarize any theme or lesson or just useful tidbit that you've learned over the years, in one go, what would be a good piece of advice for people out there looking into getting into martial arts or is already in there?
Well, right now I'm working on an MMA program that deals with the beginner, the intermediate, the advanced, and then the elite. Nice. And I think MMA should be taught to normal people. I'm not talking just putting your gloves on and getting in the ring and sparring, but the techniques of MMA. How to slip a jab and body lock and take a guy down. How to slip a cross or how to punch and shoot. How to counter a shot, double underhook or cow catcher. Catch a kick and take a guy down, or kick and shoot, or punch and shoot, offensively or defensively, and then how to defend yourself on the ground. We have a leg template of 9 leg template, a placement. It's almost like the De La Riva hook system, but it's for MMA. And then how to defend yourself off your back and how to get out. We call get outs, and then stuff like that. I think it's very useful because you're dealing with the striking aspect because. You got to figure. Everyone goes, every fight's going to end up on the ground. They say, 99 or 98 or whatever the percentage will end up on the ground. I go, yeah, but 100% of most fights start on the feet. Yeah. And there's usually a shove and a push and a punch, a shove and a punch, or a push and a punch, right? Or a guy just cold cocks you. So, I think it's important to learn to strike a little bit. Yeah. Because what happens if, like Alistair Overeem versus Verdum, what happens if you don't have a good double leg and you can't get your opponent on the back? Now you got to stay in the striking world
with a monster.
Unless you're good at running. If you're fast and you can run, then that's great too. So work on your running. Work on your ability to run and get your lungs good.
Exactly.
And then, or learn how to be diplomatic. Learn to be diplomatic about things. Learn how to offer somebody a beer. Learn how to say, "Hey, I have $20."
You need to be like a thoughtful empathetic, diplomatic gazelle that can fight too.
I mean, just
Jack
think
of
about
all trades.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to address the striking a little bit. So, because look at it like this: you're going to get in a fight with a truck driver who's starving that would rather punch your face in because he's angry than eat his meal. Now you got to deal with someone that's dangerous like that. And so by dealing with someone like that, you think he gives a rat's ass about your jiu-jitsu? He's gonna be like Fedor in the guard and try to punch your face in. He's not gonna care what you or what belt you are or what you know. So I think it's important to address that issue. To have somebody try to punch your face in while they're in your guard, because you're gonna get hit once in a while. It's bound to happen. You can't always not get hit.
It's like the Snickers commercial. Like, you're like a raging, psychopathic, starving truck driver when you're angry. Have a Snickers.
Well,
chill out.
Yeah, maybe you could offer them a Snickers.
Yeah, see?
Or you just go, oh, look, my wallet fell out.
And see? The diplomatic gazelle that can fight.
Or say, hey, I heard it's happy hour in there. I'll buy you a beer. First round's on me.
Beer's pretty universal. Free beer is pretty universal.
Yeah.
Pretty universal.
I think so.
I'm pretty much undefeated in bar fights, but I don't go to bars, so it's like, hey, it's a statistic. I'm pretty good at it. I don't go to bars. Undefeated, champion of the world.
Well, that's the thing. Like this guy called me. He goes, hey, he owns a jiu-jitsu school, and he's got a lot of students, and his students go master, master, master. And he goes, hey, Eric, I want to tell you something. I go, what's that? And he goes, yeah, I'm thinking about taking an MMA fight. And I go, why? I go, how old are you? He goes, 38. And I go, why would you do that? I go, can I say something? I go, first of all, number one, you're undefeated. You're undefeated. I go, now you fight. That means everyone's going to watch you. What if you lose? Is that worth losing some of your students because you fought a fight and someone will judge you and then they'll leave? I go, and where are you going to go with this career? I mean, how much are you going to make for a fight? $1,000, $2,000? What if you lose? Right now, you're undefeated. Your people go, oh my gosh, his word is gold. I said, don't fight. It's not worth it. I go, if you're 24, 25 years old, 30 years old, fight. But even starting at 30, unless you're accomplished fighter, it's not worth it. It's not worth it,
They're testing nowadays too. At 38, you probably don't want to start that career.
No, because you're going to have some type of testosterone enhancement, something to keep your hormones young. What do they call it again? TRT?
Some sort of endocrinologist will be involved in the betterment of this athlete, or the creation of this athlete from this jiu-jitsu instructor.
Well, aren't they testing the Pan Ams or the?
They test the world. They tested
the world.
Pan Ams and Worlds. If you podium, that you place on the podium at all during the black belts, because
it's only black belts.
So far, they're just introduced the last few years.
They're testing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so there's been actually even some bigger names in the Brazilians that actually failed for one thing or another, and you're suspended for it's like a year or two or something.
What about marijuana? Are they considering that a PED?
It's on the list. You're not supposed to have it. I don't know what the penalty is necessarily. And a lot of these rules change pretty frequently, because they're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, right? But if you place at Worlds, if you place at Pans, if you make the podium, you're subject to urinalysis. So I don't know. I mean, no one gets paid, and everyone's paying like $120 to fight.
Yeah, and then you get tested on top of that.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, what is the building rental cost for these places? Everyone, hopefully, they're making some money on this stuff, but you would think they'd be.
You mean the tournaments?
Yeah,
of course. Are you kidding me?
It's like MMA, except you do it all the time, and no one ever gets paid.
Yeah,
but I mean, the production that they had over at Worlds over at the CSU Long Beach. It's a really nice setup, and it's packed.
The pyramid's great.
I've never seen it. I mean, I was there last year, and they had a pretty good turnout. But this year, even the Saturday, there was a lot of people. Where it was blue belts finishing up, and even some kids still going. Oh. And then the black belts are going in there. They did the absolute black belt, and then the first two. because there's so many people in these brackets now. You got to qualify to do it. So you have to get a certain number of points. This is new.
Wow.
You have to get like 30 or 20 points, or if you placed last year, you're automatically qualified. But you have to like collect points in these like regional tournaments over in the months leading up. So it's like a whole thing now. But for Masters, you don't have to. You just go and sign up and you're good. But if you want to do Worlds, I think you have to have 30 points accumulated, which means like placing or winning.
Do you go in Masters?
I do Masters, yeah, Master 1.
Master 1. What's that, 40 and above?
30
and above.
30, 35, yeah.
30, that's right.
Yeah. Then Master 2 is like 36 to 40 something, 40. They're little like 5 or 6 year blocks.
I saw 2 of those Masters compete against each other.
It's very friendly.
And it was 2 red and white belts that were going, or maybe red black belts that were going, and it was from Brazil, and it was horrible.
It's gonna be slow.
Yeah, it was just like they were working the grip, and then finally one guy got a guy down, he just held him, and then he goes, "I won," and it's like, wow. I mean, would you even count that as a win? I mean, it's like, the guy slipped, you jumped on him, and you held him, and the time ran out, and you're like, yeah, and he's celebrating like he just won a gold medal in the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, or like someone wins by an advantage, and you're like,
Well, I watch some of these guys, and they don't even hit the ground, and I'm like, wait, isn't it required that you hit the ground? These guys are locking horns,
It's encouraged.
And they're like this the whole time. One guy's trying to throw the other guy, and the other guy's locking his, and then the time runs out. And then I'm like,
yeah,
there's no victors. Oh, he won by an advantage because he tried a takedown, but he didn't get it. Matches like that make me sad. You might as well just go straight to the ground.
That's discouraging.
Or they might, how about just starting them on the ground?
Yeah.
Okay, you have 3 options. Start on your knees, start on butterfly guard, start in your turtle.
Just rock, paper, scissors, somebody get on the damn ground.
Yeah. I mean, right?
I'll get bored watching guys, like just when I'm teaching class and they're sitting there.
They're standing up the whole time.
They're on their knees pulling each other back and forth. I'm like, one of you yield and go.
Yeah.
It's like somebody's on the ground.
No, I give them 15 seconds. When they're on their feet, I go, you guys got 15 seconds. And they go, what do you mean? I go, or somebody hits the ground. Ready, go. And I always warm my class up with grip fighting.
Yeah.
Always grip fighting. Because people don't understand. Like, if you've never done judo, people don't understand the grip. So the first thing we do is we learn how to strip the grip and get a good grip.
Yeah.
Real important.
I broke a dude's pinky in competition a couple weeks ago. He kept just grabbing the lapel, and like, I didn't want that. I just took it and popped it off. And the third time he grabbed it, he really wanted to hold it. And I was like, it was really coming off, and his pinky got caught and broke, and it was stupid. All you got to do is, anytime a pinky's broken, all you got to do is twist it and pull it straight out, and then tape it. And that's it. Same with the toe. Yeah, you see, it's fine.
I've done that with the toe before. Yeah. I was teaching, and I was at a police academy. I threw a kick, and my little pinky toe caught between the mat, and all of a sudden you hear crack, and they saw me kick the pad. They all looked at me, and all of a sudden I looked at everybody, and I started turning like completely white, like gaunt, and I go. And so anyways, yeah, you guys got to really focus on turning your hip and keeping the power for the kick. And I sat down, and I just grabbed my pinky toe, and I pulled it and twisted it, and I popped it as I was still talking. And then I taped it, and I put a wrestling shoe on. And they go, at the end, they go, that was amazing. And I go, what? And they go, your pinky toe broke, and you didn't lose a beat with your speech. You just kept talking like it didn't happen. I go, well, what am I going to do? I mean, there's nothing you could do. You go like this. You go, oh, yeah, hold on. Yeah. All right, everything's great.
The guys in the other room, they're like, he did the pinky toe bit. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, nothing.
Oh, man. Well,
all right, thank you.
Thanks
for your time.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I think we got a few little stories out.
We absolutely did, man.
But most of the stuff I say is not fabricated. Once in a while, you'll embellish a little bit of something, but most of the stuff I say is pretty true. And most people, because when I say it, I joke around a lot, but when I'm talking about something, a lot of people, they go, it's a bunch of shit. But most of it's 100% truthful. And the thing is because it's sometimes so crazy out there that a lot of people don't believe it. Until my wife's like, I used to hear all these stories. You used to tell stories and people used to tell stories about you. And then I started hanging out with you. And she goes, it's all true. This crap does happen to you regularly.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories where if you were to just even repeat the things that have like happened even recently, and people are like, that no way they'll ever happen to you. It's like, no, it happened. It happened. It's all true. Yeah. I mean, from everything in this room, this gym has a story, has a whole history that goes with it. And if you had the time to sit there and talk through all of it, they'd be mind blown. Just like this thing, Scotland, right?
Yeah, it's from Scotland. I was at a store in Scotland, and they have all the Gaelic and the Celtic knots, and I went to this. I think it was a rock shop, and I saw it on the wall. I go, that's really cool. And they go, oh, we sell them. And it wasn't until I had it sit in the bag on the side, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Nice. Celtic knots, they all have meaning.
Oh yeah, all the Celtic crosses and knots and all. It's like, and you'll have a lot of like the family coat of arms will have it in there.
Yeah.
I got one Cronin thing. It's a whole Irish. Really? It's from like County Cork, Ireland. We got a whole.
Oh, so thing. Gaelic.
Yeah.
What part of Ireland?
The south, so Crosshaven and County Cork.
Oh, nice.
So that's where the family's supposed to be from.
I was in Belfast this last year. I've got a group of guys they train really hard and
tough dudes.
These guys compete. Yeah, and when you go there, everyone just sits there quietly. And I was actually talking, and I looked, and I go, wow, everyone is actually like quietly sitting there listening to every word that I say. You know how like in America when you're teaching to a bunch of people, you got one guy picking his toenails and staring at the clock, and their attention span is like dialed in.
The Northern Irish are a disciplined folk.
Wow, sure, definitely. Same with the Scots and the Brits.
Absolutely. Tough guys. I trained at Hodgers in the UK like back in like 2007, and I was one of the smaller people there. It was just a bunch of like big like labor like stonemason types.
Probably from like Wigan, from the blue collar areas.
Yeah, it was somewhere in London, like near Farringdon or whatever the hell it was. Anyway, man, thanks for doing the show. I appreciate the hospitality.
Thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. And definitely, do you have any seminars coming up anywhere?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I had a few weeks off. I have a new project I'm working on. It's called Combat Athletics, and it's gymnastics, foot speed exercises, hand speed exercises, partner conditioning, like lifting, conditioning, partner drills, personal pull-ups, dips, all this for gymnastics, but used for what we do. The rope, the high bar, the parallel bars or the pipes, handstands, push-ups, and stomach exercises. And then we're adding the tumbling exercises. We have 4 sets of different things that you can do for flexibility and for conditioning, which is strength, flexibility, and nimbleness. And then I'm going to put some pads in there. So I've got some Thai pad holds that are really good for conditioning, just for conditioning. Nothing to really teach, but just that people could use to, hey, you want to blow your lungs out, do these. And I paid some of my old teachers a lot of money to get a lot of these drills, and they're so great. I think that people should know them.
Awesome.
And the other is the strength, and then we do a little bit of the ground silat, which is all the rocking chair movement, which is jiu-jitsu, and also Indonesian silat, and then a little bit of capoeira.
Nice. And do you have a website where people can go to find all this stuff?
Yeah, just erikpaulson.com.
Erik Paulson with a K.
Erik with a K, PAULSON.com. Boom. And I have an association, and in our association we have 4 aspects. We have the no-gi, which is levels 1 to 10. It's catch wrestling. It's the CSW system. And then we have the STX kickboxing, which is levels 1 to 5, which is it's a combination of about 5 striking arts. And then we have the MMA program, which we're doing right now. And then we have the jiu-jitsu, which is already shot. It's white to black belt, actually. It's white to black. And it's weird. It's hard to put a curriculum together. And I've asked Master Rigan several times for a curriculum, but I don't think there ever was a syllabus. I mean, they know what you have to know, but it's like, how do we know what people have to know? And could we create a syllabus that actually is physical, that is written down? It's a working document that actually you go, here's what you need to know. You need to know how to tie your belt. You need to know how to bow in and bow if you require that. Keep your nails cut. Wash your gi daily. Then what are your basic positions? There's 5. They fit in the palm of your hand. It's jiu-jitsu, mount, crossbody, closed guard, back control, and kneeling. Those are your 5 basics. What are the secondary positions? There's 5. You have half guard or side half guard, butterfly guard, knee on belly, north and south, keizagatami, kazuri, keizagatami.
Nice.
That's it. So you have primary and secondary. And then as far as the striking goes, it's a combination. And the stuff that we do is based for competition or for self-defense. And then we have the jiu-jitsu program is a compilation of all of it. And again, Master Rigan just helped me with the brown belt curriculum, which was the hardest for me. Because what should brown belts know? And you go to different instructors, but you have the old and the new. So we've put that together. And then now I'm finishing up the MMA program, which is beginner, intermediate, advanced, elite, and then the combat athletics, which is for that, and then the next will be self-defense, and then after that will be all spiritual healing, meditation, and probably massage and healing.
Perfect. Keep everybody grounded.
Well, in the end, martial arts should also heal you and help you. It's not just to learn how to defend yourself and be tough and go to tournaments as an athlete, but what's for the rest of your life?
Can't just be fight school, I guess.
Well, you have to have that, but you also have to be a good gardener too.
Fair
you
enough.
should be a great samurai and a good gardener.